All right, our next icon is Colin Lovequist. Colin, tell us about how you started. What made you want to get into radio to begin with?
Well, I come from a family of teachers, except myself and Dad, so there's the gift of gab ran through the family, but I was one of those kids, you hear the stories of the kids taking their transistors into the bedroom, listening to the radio at night, and I'd tune into Keys Country down in North Dakota, and I'd tune into Detroit, and I'd get a station, I think it was Portland, Oregon, I'd hear the Wolfman Jack at night at about midnight, and I thought, this is the greatest thing. And then I guess another aspect to it was there's a lot of puzzle pieces that fit this, but growing up on the farm, we'd always come in for dinner, and we'd have our Campbell soup and our bologna sandwich, and the radio would go on, and there was 620 CKRM, or back in those days 980, and I'd start talking to Dad, and we'd be reminiscing or something. Dad would hush me, said, "Be quiet, Jim Smalley's on. Grain prices." I thought, who's this guy that has this much power over my father that he could do that? Make me stop talking. So I thought, well, that's something. That's the first that's ever happened. So I got this little seed planted, and then, over the years, I was a big collector I'd get my $20 and I'd buy some comics, some sports cards, and then I'd buy 2 or 3 records from the drugstore, the hardware store in Broadview. So I had this massive collection of music, and that led into doing the school dances, and then I was emceeing minor hockey and doing the figure skating club, emceeing all their functions, and it just snowballed. And then a big part of that story was 1983. We were driving in an old 49 International grain truck. My dad, we were going out to the pasture, going out to one of our fields to unload some grain, and this old International, the passenger door didn't close very well at the time. So he took this 90-degree turn on this dirt road. I did a couple of somersaults, a couple of cartwheels, tumbled, did the splits, ended up in the ditch, and he drove about another 100 yards before he realized I had fallen into the truck. And then I thought to myself, there's got to be something better. I got to look elsewhere. I don't want to do this for a living, being a farmer. And then my vice principal, Barry Sheffernak, came up, and I was standing at the showcase where the trophies are in the school, and he puts this WABC broadcasting poster on the bulletin board. And he looks at me and goes, "This is you. This is up your alley. You should check this out." So as soon as I graduated, I got a job at Holloway & Sons in Broadview, did a little plumbing, and I thought, okay, time to go check out this Western Academy Broadcasting, and that's where that passion came from. It's just the love of music and looking to do something else, and getting shushed by my father because Jim Smalley was on. I'm thinking that was probably the big moment where, who's this guy that's got all this power? I thought I got to try it.
So you went to school in Saskatoon, broadcast school, and where was the first job?
First job, I sent out, I think about 45 cassettes and resumes to every radio station in Western, Eastern Canada, and Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories at the time, and a lot of CBC stations up there in the Yukon. And I got all these, sorry, at this moment we don't have any openings. And then nothing happened. So I went back to the farm, and I told Dad, well, I'm going to do a little farming now. And then he got this phone call, called me to the house, and Joe McCormick, program director at CFAR, Arctic Radio 590 in Flin Flon, called me up and said, "Hey, we need a senior swing announcer. Are you interested?" And yeah, let's do it. Let's get the foot in the door, get it slammed on a few times, and see where it leads. And I told Dad, I'm going to try this radio gig for about 6 months, and here we are 40 years later.
Now, when you say senior swing announcer, that meant you did the evenings,
everything.
You did the weekends, you did all those shifts. So that's the starting out jobs, the way it used to be.
Yes, and that was probably a good way to get broken into, because it was you did everything. You did the news, weather, sports. You came out, and of course, back in those days, we had the BN or the AP Newswire, and everything was coming off 24/7, and we had that carbon copy paper, so that ticker was going constantly, and you were ripping stories and sending them in certain piles. Here goes the sports, here goes the news, here goes the weather. Any breaking news would have a certain pile, so it was just a constant. A 6-hour shift felt like an hour because you were just so busy, and you'd change the logger tapes, and at the end of the night, you put your 8-track in that had "O Canada" and to sign off in the evening, and you change the logger tapes for the morning show. And back then, we had freeform programming, so we could pick and choose anything from rock and roll, heavy metal to middle of the road, soft country. It was quite an eclectic mixture of music back in the day, but it was so good to be able to freeform program, and everybody had their own taste and their own style. So, the one guy would be playing the Gordon Lightfoot and the Murray McLaughlin, the next guy would be playing the Humble Pie and Foghat, Led Zeppelin, and they were good times. Good times.
Where did your musical taste lie at that time? What would we have heard on the Colin Lovequist show in Flin Flon?
Back in those days, it was all over the map because I grew up on the farm, and you'd stack 20 or 30 records on the turntable, and we'd have Lefty Frizzell, Charlie Pride, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard. Then my sisters would throw on the Andy Kim and the Engelbert Humperdinck, and so it was just a varied taste. And I just, probably growing up, I was more into the rock and roll scene as far as a youngster, and I'd be playing the Led Zeppelin, the Foghat, and the miners loved it. It was always piped into the mine, so they enjoyed the rock scene. So I sort of catered to those guys in the evening because that's who was listening in. So, but it was memorable.
How long in Flin Flon?
3 years. And I was always told, Don Scott always said from WABC, said, never stay longer than 6 months at a place until you want to plant your roots. But I love to fish. I was a fisherman from southern Saskatchewan, so going up north and be able to fish out your backyard, that was just right up my alley. So I stayed 3 years, and it was a different location, different times. They were a little isolated up there. And if you weren't with the Flin Flon Bombers or with the Mandy Mine, they really didn't want anything to do with you. So we got into a few tussles first 4 months, don't lean on my truck or we're going to go at it. And it was different, but memories that I'll take with me for a lifetime, because that was the gate that opened and started it all.
And where was next?
So from there, we went to straight to CFSL in Weyburn. I went home for probably about 2 months, and then it was Jay Hitchin, who was the PD in Chat, Alberta, for many years. He started in Weyburn. He called me up and said, we are looking for a midday guy. So I did middays there for 6 months, then got thrown into the afternoon drive, and I loved Weyburn. Good size, nice size community. You had the junior team, you had the theater, you had all the amenities you could like, and it was a great experience. Did some Sioux Line Hockey League color back in the day with Bruce Lupke, who went on to be the voice of the Brandon Wheat Kings for many years. And again, it was just a nice stepping stone. Weyburn.
And how long there?
I was there from 89 till 94 when I got the call to come here, and it was like it's like baseball. You're in the minor leagues and you're waiting for that phone call, and finally got the phone call.
So when you did get the phone call, Willie Cole would have been the one to call you up. Yeah. What did that mean to you?
That was pretty much... that was like going from the minors to the majors, because I had known Perry Nias prior to that, because we were in rotisserie baseball league, so we always talked baseball all the time. And he said, we got an opening coming up here, you should apply. And I threw the resume in and the tape, and it wasn't very long after that I got the phone call from Willie, and came into the big city, and nervous as you know what, but again, it was just like... Everybody talks about CKRM back in the day, and everybody where I came from listened to 620 CKRM or 980 at the time, and it was the call you always wanted to get. You were waiting for if you were in radio. You wanted to get the country music giant 620 CKRM. So that was a very special call, and got up here, and boy, you're only as good as those you surround yourself with, and we were surrounded by really good staff.
Now, the first shift you did when you came?
I came in. I actually thought I was coming in for the midday position, but I was in the evening slot. But that was fine because, again, you just get your foot in the door. You want to be at the biggest station you can go to. And I did evenings for about probably 5 years. The Saturday night dance party, had a lot of fun with that. And I just couldn't believe the following, like the phones that were always lit up. And I did evenings and called every senior hockey team, junior B hockey team, SJHL club, WHL, and over the phone we had to get these scores constantly throughout the night. So we spent a lot of time on the phone, but it definitely it broadened your horizons, and it made you appreciate the effort that went into make 620 CKRM what it was, which was the number one station. We had crazy numbers back in the day.
Now, how long in the evenings before you moved up?
I believe it was about 4 years. 4 years. Then I got into the midday slot. And I think it was Dan Broderick that left at that time. No, Wade Willie left. And then Dan Broderick came in. And then when Dan Broderick left, Mark Stevenson came in. And then when Mark left, they asked me if I wanted to be the music director and midday announcer. And it was nice. Getting your weekends back was sort of nice.
And did you dabble in music before that, before you actually became officially the music director?
Yeah. No, I did. I was assistant music director back in Weyburn and up in Flin Flon. I also helped out with music and different time. You look at the different types of mediums you went through, and you go start off with that reel to reel, and you go through the Denon discs and the CDs and the carts, and it was a lot of fun. But I loved handling the 45s. It was just, you got 2 minutes and 20 seconds because back then the songs were short, so there's no monkeying around. You got right at it and you paid attention.
So you went from the vinyl, queuing up the vinyl records and getting those all fired up, and you had to know your gears, how fast that turntable would turn, to now where it's all digital.
Crazy. Just, I can't believe how far we've come. Like, we've just, back in the day, and I remember probably my worst, and I was fairly new to the station, but I was doing the senior drive. I had to work a Saturday afternoon, and we got a Rams game. And we got 4 remotes during the Rams game, and we're using reel to reel. So you're recording one announcer on one reel, and then Fred King would be on the other reel. You'd swap the reels out, play one, get the other one loaded, and then tape the third guy, go back to the football game, take another break, play the second guy. It was just a constant. And I said, I'm going straight to heaven because I've been through hell for that Saturday afternoon. And it just sort of molded me into, being prepared, being on top of the game, just concentrate and always be one step ahead. So that was a good learning lesson. But the analog to digital, it was just, it's crazy to see where we've come, and I can't imagine what the next 5 years is going to hold for us.
Did you ever regret the decision while you were doing one of those days, rolling out of the truck and going, wait a minute, that might not have been a bad idea?
That tumble probably, I could have probably survived that again. But I had no regrets. I enjoyed what I loved to do, and I got the golden key that opened all the doors for everything. And I look at it as a journey. For the last 40 years, it's a journey, and I've connected with people, and I've just had this great opportunity. A small town, southern Saskatchewan boy, getting this chance to do what not many others have been able to do. Like, I've had so many doors open, Brad. It's just crazy what I've seen and done over the years, and she's been a ride that.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned the fact that everybody back home listened to CKRM. So I've asked some of the other ones that had that experience as well. What did it mean when you went back home now that you were on CKRM?
Yeah, it was, small town kid makes good. It was, everybody would come up and pat you on the back, and we knew you were going to do that. After all those hockey games and figure skating club programs and all the school dances, we knew. And I've had classmates come up to me and say, you're the only guy that graduated that said he was going to do what he was going to do. And I look back at that now. I said, yeah, I did, didn't I? Grade 10, I was going to be a disc jockey or an announcer. But I had a lot of support from family, friends, the community. It was, and you'd walk into the bingo hall and everybody would give you a little applause as you walked down the staircase. It was memorable.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the music, because that's a big, big part of your career. And being a music director, it's a specialized field. Talk about the progression from the way things used to be received by a radio station to the way they're received now. You used to get in the mail people just sending you stuff.
And like I said, you always surround yourself with good people, and you're only as good as those around you. And I had some great music trackers. And for those that don't know what a music tracker is, they bring you the music, and they'll bring you the samples, the CDs or the records, and they'll say, here's what we've just released. Here's what this song is doing on the charts, and I think it would fit your format very well. And we had like guys like Skip Taylor and Kevin Korchinski and these great reps that would come around and bring the music to us, and we'd sample it, and if it fit the format, and we saw it was doing well in other markets, because back in even those days we had reports come through us through different magazines like RPM and other materials, and we'd see how they were doing in other markets that were similar to ours, and if the style and the format fit, it would usually get added. And these days everything's digital now, so you're looking at streaming and stuff that wasn't even thought of back then. But our biggest way of gauging was feedback. Somebody would phone up and say, hey, that's a great song, and then you be emceeing the different dances and different functions, and you'd see what the dance floor would fill up with. And that was probably the biggest way I would gauge music, because I could see when we were emceeing the Pump Roadhouse or the North 40 or any of these other saloons, you'd see what was filling the dance floors up with what music was doing that. And then you just try to make a memory of that and bring it back to work the next day and say, hey, this song came up and the dance floor just was nuts. And that was one of the ways we gauged what got added and played at the time.
Very common theme, you touch on it, being out in the public. That was a responsibility that everybody had at CKRM.
Everybody had. And that's, in my opinion, that was my favorite aspect of the whole thing. Out of all the things I've done and places I've been and the doors that have opened and seen all these unique things, I guess getting submersed into the local communities, that's probably what stands out the most, because I've had a lot of people approach me and thank me or say, you know what, you got me through some tough times with your show and your music, and the communities around Saskatchewan are probably the greatest aspect of my career is being able to make friends, lifelong friends. Like I say, you'd have the mayor come out to say hi, or you'd have people they knew you were coming to town, and they'd come over and they'd want to hang out and talk. So we connected a lot, but that was a big part. And anybody that's an introvert, you want to get into radio, this is not the job for you. But
now you're the only one of our icons that is still currently on the air on CKRM. So you have a different perspective, if you will. Let's talk about Country Cookout, because that's something very special, and you have a very special role in that. You get to highlight the communities. that the winners are from.
Yeah, and that's another favorite part of the aspect of the job is getting prepared to do it. So I go through the history books, I go through the communities and find out the people that built that community or started that community and just wave their flag and sing their praises. And there's 1,900 towns in Saskatchewan, and I think we've probably been to half of those already, and there is more to come. But and they're so appreciative. That's the thing. They'd come up and say, thank you so much for coming to our town and putting us on the map, or talking about a function. And you talk to the locals and you say, hey, what's coming up? What are you guys doing? Any community events that we should be aware of so we can help you guys out? And they were always so grateful and appreciative. And again, that's probably the biggest thing that stands out, is submersing myself into these small communities and just having them, gravitate towards us and what we do. And it's like we're one big giant family now, and it's such a great feeling being a part of that.
Now, another small community that has played a big role in your career is Craven. Many years of being at Craven. Talk about it from when you first arrived, I guess, to CKRM.
Such a different scene back then. There was just it was more inclusive, and everybody got a chance. And CKRM, we started the Country Thunder, the Big Valley Jamboree, back in 1983. So we've always had a special attachment to Country Thunder, but we got the main stage for many of the big acts in the early days, and then in the 90s the country music scene changed a bit, and more organizations and more radio stations got involved with that. But it was just a great time to be a country music fan, and we had the who's who of the music industry come through, and just it was so good because we actually got. They're at the point now where they got the Jumbotron and you do a hit. They got rid of the Jumbotron now, and they brought in these specialized MCs, and Williams and Reed did it for years, and now they bring in some of these different names off of Sirius satellite radio shows, which is fine. But back in the day, it was so good because we actually got a chance to bring the act onto the stage. There was no pause, and I would blow these artists right out of the water, and 32 number one hits, 9 Grammys, CCMA award winner. Please welcome, on behalf of your country concert station, 620 CKRM, Country Music Hall of Famer, Ronnie Millsap, or whoever it was. And they would just, the artists, you could see the crowd. It was a different crowd because they would go nuts. It was like fireworks because you got to take off and launch these artists on the stage, and they appreciate it. I remember Ronnie Millsap dragging me over to the side of the stage. His wife led him to me, and she goes, "This is the announcer." And Ronnie goes, "Man, I haven't had an introduction like that for 40 years. Thank you so much. I appreciate that." And it was just different times, and the crowds, they loved it.
And you raise a very good point, because there was a time where you were emceeing a concert. It was your job to get that crowd fired up when the artist came out.
It was the job. And, and it was, again, another point where you are always prepared. Make sure you had your stats and your information. And it just added another level of excitement, because you blew these guys up so big, and they came out and they're all excited because you blew them up. And so they had a lot of extra energy to their show, and that fed the crowd, and it was just crazy. And there was times you'd have to say, "I'm sorry, Tim McGraw cannot perform tonight due to the weather," and you'd get booed, and it was a lot of fun stuff you don't forget.
Now, it's putting you on the spot, but I'm going to do it anyway. Give us a couple favorite memories from the stage.
Oh, from the stage?
Well, from opening up for the acts and for being there, or behind the stage, whatever.
Well, behind the stage, you have to buy the book, because there's so much that. But there's some things that happen that I just never expected them to happen. Getting stuff thrown at you once in a while, and on a Friday night, you'll get the odd something goes flying by your head. What the? There's certain things, and there's artists that you never thought would they do something like that. But I can't tell the one story. But Mel Tillis, he said something that got caught on the Jumbotron, and everybody just, what? Did he actually do that? Did he say that? And there's just so much going on. There is just. Trying to retain it all, but there's so much going on that main stage and behind the scenes, and getting a chance to hang out and have a beer with George Jones or Merle Haggard, and going for a smoke with Waylon Jennings, like it's just unbelievable. And you're thinking, I played you guys on my turntable all those years, and now I'm having a beer with you. Like it's just like.
Or the kid on the farm listening in the kitchen to the radio.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting with them.
Now I'm sitting with them. That just nuts. Can't believe it. And somebody asked me the other day, said, who do you need to interview, or who do you want to meet? And I don't think there's anybody left. Like there's probably nobody on my list that I need to meet or interview, because I've been there, done that, wrote the book, bought the T-shirt, got the movie rates.
Now, the shows you do on 620 CKRM, Country Rewind, number one's at 1. you tap into all that information, all that
Yes.
experience.
Very fortunate. And I don't know, it's probably that collector mentality I have, but I talk to guys like, Perry Nias and these guys. Back in the day, we had our reel-to-reel machine, and you'd record something, then you'd have to bulk erase it with the magnet and move on to the next recording or the next interview. And my brain said, keep this. Hang on to this. This might come back to benefit you some way. And I am so grateful that I hung on to all my interviews from the late '80s until now. Like and they worked. They fit beautifully because the show with number ones had won. We look back on this day in history, and I pretty much have audio clips from everybody I interviewed back through the 90s and late 80s and into the new millennium. So it's been a great beneficial tool to my game.
What do you keep all that on? How do you keep the material?
It was all on cassette, and it was all on reel-to-reel. And back when we still had the reel-to-reel machines, we could actually hook up to the computer, and I digitized everything. So everything I've got from back in the day is now on hard drives, and I've got 10 terabytes full of interviews and clips and just I had one of those Russian malwares, or it was a ransomware. Russian ransomware came in about 2008, 2009, and they stole about 6 files. So I lost my Johnny Cash interview, I lost some Waylon interviews, I lost some of the earlier stuff. And that was probably the only day I've ever cried at the radio station. And I asked them, I said, can we pay the ransom? No, there's no guarantee we're going to get this back. Well, I said, well, I'm not going to get my interviews back from the day. And it was a sad day. But I got the majority of them, but I lost a few good ones.
Who's named in the will that gets all that?
I don't know. I know I've talked to a few people. There's some different organizations because they know what I've got as far as videos and photographs, but I've talked to my nephews, and they're a little keen, but I don't know. I think the CCMAs might get a good, because I got cowboy hats from 1988 signed up full. I got 16 cowboy hats, all autographed from Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, like all the big names, all the Outlaws, and the Chicks, Diamond Rio, like they're all there. And somebody's going, wow, you got all the Diamond Rio band together at once. How was that possible? It just happened. It was pretty cool. But yeah, I think, I don't know what we're going to do. You might have to come to my real estate sale. You might get some cheap autographs and souvenirs.
I would have to outlive you. Now, you love the history of the station. You love the history of radio in general. So tell me what this year means to you, the 100th anniversary.
This is such a special year because, it's a accumulation of the past, the present, and the future, and where we've been, where we're going, and what we're doing now. And again, it's the people that make it special. The listeners are I call them the family, the Prairie family, because they're the ones that have grown up with us, like I did growing up with CKRM. And there's quite a bond. And this year, just being able to celebrate all the accomplishments and all the greats, and I say greats because you're only as good as those you surround yourself with, and I look at even like the sales staff, like Les Schuster and Jim Sullivan and Ron Ulmer and Bob Polowitz and Jason Hushy and Karen Broderick and Fred King and Willie Cole and Jeff King and Jeff Courier, and it was just a great time to be in the game, and I was so grateful and fortunate and honored and humbled to be just a part of that crew, because it's probably the greatest 30-some years of my life in radio, and they made it special, and the listeners make it special. So this year we want to make it special, and I think we're going to do some extracurricular activities and spread the word and help out with others, and just share the celebration with the rest of the province.
Now, you mentioned a lot of names there, a lot of people that have passed through the station.
Great people.
Yeah, over the time. Talk a little bit about that, about Fred King, Willie Cole, Perry Nias.
Well, Perry Perry was the guy that I just gravitated towards before I got into the CKRM, and Perry, just down to earth, salt of the earth kind of guy, just he'd give you his last dollar out of his wallet if you asked for it, and just a very humble, down to earth, fun loving guy that really respects others and respected what you do, and whether it's a big or a small part, he was always there to say, hey, pat you on the back, good job. That you did good. That was great. Fred King just opened up his heart to everybody, and his door to his house. First Christmas, he says, "You want to come spend Christmas with us, you and Donnie?" And I said, "Well, that's very grateful, but we've got other plans. We've got our family coming down." And Fred was one of those guys that everybody loved and just appreciated. And same with Willie. Willie, he was always encompassing and just, he knew how to handle the staff, because you got all these different personalities, big egos always, and you got to be able to control everything. And he did a good job of making sure that things ran smoothly and made sure we were in the right place at the right time, because we had so many moving parts as far as weekends and weekdays, what was going on. It was very organized. And the staff, the sales guys, Fred Allery, I forgot about Fred Allery, just a super nice guy. And these guys would go above and beyond the call of duty to make you comfortable or help you out. Do you need anything? What do you want? What can we do? Do you want us to peel the hot dogs for you while you're cooking them? There's just a lot of gratefulness for the crew you worked with, because I think those days are gone. I don't know. I don't see it happening again. But we did surround ourselves with good people, and there were so many.
Now, again, in the music vein, when everyone was working on the top 100 country songs of all time, it was very painful for you.
Painful.
For 100.
I winced.
The list would have been 1,000 if you would have had your way.
I know.
But I'm going to put you on the spot. What is your favorite song?
My favorite song is probably a B cut, because I love playing the B-sides. But on the list...
Doesn't have to be on the list.
Okay.
Your favorite.
Okay, my favorite... Well, it would have to be... my favorite song of all time. I love George Jones' "These Old Eyes Have Seen It All," because it's a little historical song about what he's witnessed over his time and saw the fall and rise of some wars and just saw his family, pass away and move on, and life goes on. But it's just a great 4 minutes and 22 seconds of memories from George Jones. Check it out. It's a good one.
Colin, thanks for these memories.
Appreciate it, and thank you for doing this. And again, I'm very humbled and honored just to be a small piece of the fabric that's been woven into the canvas of CKRM, and I'm very grateful for all my opportunities, and again, grateful for our listeners. We love you. You are the ones that make this possible.